Taylor Swift is a psyop. You knew that already, right?
Good morning. Taylor Swift is not a psyop.
Taylor Swift is not a psyop.
Oh, I'm sorry. It must not be true then. Taylor Swift is totally not a psyop.
Taylor Swift is not a psyop.
In April of 1967, Ramparts magazine exposed CIA involvement in the media, as well as CIA connections to journalists. As discovered by author Deborah Davis, the CIA, through Operation Mockingbird, recruited some of the most popular and influential American journalists into a propaganda network. And during this time, they were also influencing various front groups. We would later discover that the CIA's involvement and influence over the media ran much deeper than we thought. Operation Mockingbird was initiated in the early 1950s with the original intent of combating communist propaganda by creating pro-American propaganda. But obviously since then, the CIA's game has become fully realized, as they now shape all Western media today to sell you a false reality and keep you in the matrix. But that's the purpose of all media and entertainment today. All mainstream media, all mainstream entertainment today is designed as propaganda to either sell you a lie or to distract you from the truth. Everything. Even right down to your favorite pop singer. In fact, the biggest lie that they let out into the ether is that it's only Taylor Swift that's a psyop. No, it's all of them. I'm sorry to tell you this, but every celebrity is designed to distract you. Every celebrity is a lie. They're all in on it together. It's all completely fake. And in this new series about the entertainment industry, I'm going to expose the truth about pop culture media and show you what's really behind the entertainment industry's glamorous facade. I often talk about alternative historical theories and ideas on this channel that are not often accepted by the mainstream. And the purpose of that series is just to have fun thinking about alternative answers to history's riddles. But Operation Mockingbird was very real. And just like MK Ultra, the CIA acknowledged it a very long time ago. This is all true. No matter how much you love Taylor Swift, the mainstream media and pop culture is a psychological weapon that's used against you. The media is a lie. Do you guys remember that old 1960s American national anthem television sign-off? You know, the one that was exposed for being blatant propaganda filled with messages about loyalty to America.
Our national anthem.
Back in the 1960s, the American government subtly hid alternative text in the national anthem while transitioning to each new line of the lyric. While watching at regular speed, it's hard to see, but when you slow the video down, you'll notice messages like, "Trust the government," "Believe in government God," and "Rebellion is not tolerated." This is called subliminal messaging today. This is Tyler Durden's stuff. He explained this to you back in '99.
So when the snooty cat and the courageous dog with the celebrity voices meet for the first time in reel 3, that's when you'll catch a flash of Tyler's contribution to the film. Nobody knows that they saw it, but they did.
This American national anthem video played every night for years before somebody noticed something was wrong. This is a perfect example of the kinds of things that the CIA was putting into the media during Operation Mockingbird. The United States government got caught putting subliminal messaging in their national anthem sign-off. People got angry about it. And now it's illegal to use that form of subliminal messaging in media. But that doesn't mean that the various agencies of the United States government haven't found sneakier, more nefarious ways to hide messaging in media. They've ramped up their game. They have so much more control now. I'd never spent much time thinking about how much influence the CIA or other agencies had over the media. That is, until I made a video about the Hopkinsville Goblins and realized that the CIA had an agent working at the local radio station. In his book, Hynek said that he was setting up 12 satellite listening stations across the United States, and one of the electronic technicians, Bud Ledwith, who was setting up quartz clock cameras, just so happened to be a sound engineer at the local radio station during the Kelly Hopkinsville encounter. In fact, he was the first reporter on the scene, and he was even the one who drew the most famous sketches based on the family's testimony. What are the chances? Was Bud Ledwith a secret agent working at the local station? Was it common practice for the Air Force and CIA to set up agents and radio stations across America to keep their ear to the ground? I mean, think about it. In the 1950s, something crazy happens. Who is the first one you call? The local radio station. And as I was putting some of that old material together, it clicked for me. They never left. The CIA has always been involved in the media. A lot of us used to listen to Art Bell, the guy that used to have the program where he invited people to call in and reveal their unique stories about encounters with aliens or their run-ins with ghosts. The Coast to Coast radio show was one of the best sources for bizarre supernatural stories and shocking testimonies from whistleblowers. The phone lines were supposed to be open, and Art Bell reminded us in every episode that they weren't screening callers before they would talk live on the air. It was all supposed to be live, it was all supposed to be candid, authentic callers. That was the perception they created, at least. I think some of those callers were real, most of those callers were hoaxers, but I'm pretty convinced that a handful of them were actors. But some of those calls had to have been real. Surely structuring your show that way would have encouraged authentic callers to expose actual supernatural phenomenon, or real whistleblowers that will expose actual government lies or real military secrets. It's only a matter of time before somebody calls in exposing a very sensitive government secret. A show like that is too much power for one man. It's too much potential for chaos. So you have to ask, was Art Bell CIA? I thought about it a while back and realized best case scenario, someone with a show like Coast to Coast. One day he's gonna be big enough, one day he's gonna be influential enough that you know a couple of agents are gonna wanna pay him a visit, and they're gonna be sure to tell him something like, do not ever do this thing, no matter what. You know that he had to have had a visit like that. But chances are the show was always fake. Chances are it was always engineered as an artificial outlet for the bizarre and unexplained from the very beginning. Maybe the entire purpose of the show was just to create a perception about conspiracy theorists and people that believe in aliens. Maybe the point of the show was to mix in the real stories with the fiction so that the average person couldn't tell the difference and would just dismiss it all. Or maybe it was just the CIA's way of developing some control over the conspiracy theory community. Art Bell very likely never had any actual freedom to expose the truth to the American public. Art Bell had to play by the rules or he risked getting kicked off the air. Obviously. But that's just radio, and radio was never really the problem. It all actually started with the introduction of the television as a common household item for the entire family to enjoy. In the 1950s, only about 15% of American households owned a television. But by the year 1960, 85% of people in the United States had at least one television in their home, some owning multiple. The television was introduced in the early 1950s. Operation Mockingbird was introduced in the early 1950s. Operation Mockingbird, the CIA program designed to shape America's perception of reality through media, began at the exact same time that the television was being commodified as a normal household item. The two events line up perfectly. Do you get it? The entire purpose of the television is to lie to you. And by 1960, almost every home in America owned a television, and they could pump their propaganda directly into your living room, influencing every American family. In the beginning, there were only really 3 major television networks: ABC, NBC, and CBS, all of which were relatively homogeneous in their presentation style, similar in the way they depicted the world, depicted American culture, depicted American society, and the relative value system they conveyed was pretty identical. Big smiles and continuous messages that all is well in America. Having 3 networks creates a perception of choice, nuance, discussion, and disagreement. But that's almost never what you got with the big 3, and still really don't get today. Except, for a few embarrassing outliers.
The green M&M, you will notice, is no longer wearing sexy boots. Now she's wearing sensible sneakers. M&Ms will not be satisfied until every last cartoon character is deeply unappealing and totally androgynous. Until the moment you wouldn't want to have a drink with any one of them. That's the goal. When you're totally turned off, we've achieved equity. They've won.
At first, the television was advertised as a way for us to bond as a family and spend time together. This was supposed to be a social activity, and the television was actually supposed to hide away and disappear into the background of the living room. Because why would you want the television on all the time? That would be obnoxious, right? Just another piece of wooden furniture to place your whiskey glass. Eventually, people would buy an extra television for their home so that their children could watch separate programming, alone, without supervision. This allowed networks and corporations to push more direct propaganda to younger generations. They could advertise things like games, toys, fashion, yes, but they could also push more abstract things like ideologies, lusts, desires, and fears. It could teach the youth that they lack things, that they're inferior. The television could expose the youth to a brand new world of things to crave. And now with the youth being sent out into the world with all this insecurity and confusion, it made them way more likely that they'd want to follow popular culture and buy things to fit in. This sense of lack, inferiority, and confusion would feed the economy, sure, but it would also create a dependency on the system, a dependency on pop culture, a dependency on corporations. Speaking of dependency, the television turned out to be extremely addictive, by the way. I feel like nobody ever talks about that anymore. Please stop watching television, and for the love of God, don't let your children watch television. Are the Kardashians still on the air? That shit will rot your brain. Before television created this new era of advertising, demographics didn't really exist. At least people didn't really think much in terms of demographics. Before, teens weren't really considered part of the market, but now teens are being coerced into spending their disposable income on fashionable items. And children could pressure their families, beg their parents to buy them toys and games. This was the beginning of the individual's separation from culture, from community, and the beginning of a new era of popular culture that's designed to entertain us, keep us stupid, and blindly following what's popular. Pop culture is for stupid people. I ended up pretty addicted to television when I was young. But now, unless somebody has like a hockey game or a football game on when I go visit them, I haven't watched cable since 2012. Being addicted to your screen is bad enough. We need to let go of our addictions to our screens. But television is the worst one. Loud, blunt messaging, ranted and chanted at you by brain-dead anchors and television personalities. Or now you have your moral and social standards being dictated to you by useless reality stars. Our perception of reality is totally because of the way they frame programming like this. In the early years of movies, films were almost considered sacred. Film had been around a lot longer than television, obviously. Film was the most popular way people consumed their entertainment until 1960. People could even get their news and information from film. They used to run newsreels and informative shorts between films and animations at theaters. They also used to show propaganda. Back in the day, you used to just show up to the movie theater whenever, and the projection booth would be running a continuous loop of different content all day long. News, shorts, films, animations, what have you. And if you missed the film that you came to watch, well, chances are all you had to do was just sit long enough and it would come back on again. Simpler times. Always makes me think of that Roger Rabbit movie. Love that film. Because of how popular film was, because of how vital film was to the public, the very Christian population in the United States had specific expectations about the kinds of morality that should be depicted in film, along with a laundry list of offensive concepts and words that were banned from ever appearing in film. The Motion Picture Production Code was enacted in the United States in 1934, also known as the Hays Code. The purpose of the Hays Code was to maintain and defend a strong sense of morality. There's no other way to really put it, but the Hays Code was created to make the propagation and celebration of immoral ideas illegal. But by the 1960s, television is way more accessible to the average person, and unlike film, television is constantly challenging the morality set by the Hays Code. People obviously started to notice, and there's always been some pushback, but the public also began to soften up about the way they depict rigid morality in media. So, as the media began to push popular culture on us, we grew more accustomed to it. We got used to seeing celebrities' names and faces plastered everywhere. The most important message that I hope you take away from this series, the thing that you need most to understand, is that the celebrities themselves are the subliminal messages. Celebrities are engineered personalities that are designed to keep you transfixed to your screen. Celebrities are not real people. Whatever they told you was their background, whatever they told you was their life story, it was a lie. The camera turned off, but I'm gonna say it anyways. It was a lie. They lied to you. A lot of your favorite artists are not even artists. They're just brand personalities. They're the face of a product. I love a lot of popular culture and I love a lot of popular art. I'm not trying to vilify all entertainment or belittle anyone for liking a movie or a TV show or anything. But I hate the way that our society lifts popular art up to meteoric heights and worships the pop artists like they're gods. Even the way people rage and argue over different celebrities and works of fiction or film franchises. People choose sides and argue over who's a better singer, who's a better actor. Meanwhile, everything you're seeing and hearing is fake. It's all sick. People grow up obsessed with celebrities living artificial lives and portraying engineered personalities that are just designed to keep you infatuated with them and infatuated with your screen. It's hard to know how growing up in that environment affects us into our adulthood. The pop culture world, the celebrity world, has no connection to reality. It's completely devoid of character, devoid of principle, devoid of credibility and honesty. Yet people look to celebrities like they're the social and moral leaders of our society. Yes, this is all to serve their corporate overlords and make endless money for their brand. But the things that they say, the ideas that they push, it's all designed to perpetuate that same propaganda that was started in the 1950s, just updated for the new generation. The CIA directly influences and controls lots of celebrities and uses them to push lies on us. Did I make that clear? Could you tell that that's what this whole segment was about? Operation Mockingbird itself only really operated between the 1950s and 60s during the height of the Cold War, and it was likely founded under President Harry S. Truman. Operation Mockingbird originally started off by trying to coerce a series of journalists. Multiple high-profile reporters were coerced into pushing CIA-designed propaganda, often without any idea that they were being used that way. The CIA would find various ways to feed bad information and propaganda to these reporters as if it were fact. The effect was that these high-profile journalists would author sincere reports about these things, believing that they're reporting on the truth. And that's how the CIA originally got their propaganda fed through reliable sources. Eventually, they would just opt to create their own sources. They would just create their own reporters, their own celebrities, their own networks, their own programs. Bad information like this is still fed to us through the media today by journalists, communicators, personalities, celebrities. I can tell you, even just as my experience as a YouTuber, that all sorts of weird, bad information ends up floating around your community. A lot of strange characters try to get you to push weird stories on your channel. And the comments section doesn't help. Bots are constantly pressuring me to try to make whatever trending propaganda is out there today, like Tartaria. Can you guys shut the f up about Tartaria? I'm not making a video about Tartaria. But if you're in the media, even as an independent, like myself, it's only a matter of time before you accidentally push somebody's propaganda before you realize that it was a lie. It's only a matter of time before you push some bad information off on your audience. Anyways, a handful of shifty characters tried to get me to jump down some weird rabbit holes, push both communist and fascist propaganda. And when I think back, there's no way that none of those guys were CIA. The Motion Picture Production Code, or the Hays Code, kept films fairly wholesome for a good long time. It kept films pretty politically inoffensive for a good long time, until Hollywood evolved along with television and started challenging the sensibilities of the code more and more with the decisions they were making. Hollywood kept breaking the rules more and more, dwindling down the public's sensibilities for offense. Eventually, everyone just got tired of fighting it and got used to the new kinds of material that Hollywood was producing. Eventually, the Motion Picture Production Code was ultimately discarded in 1968, allowing Hollywood to make the raunchy, exciting content that we all grew up loving. Sex, drugs, and rock and roll become much more tolerated and normal in film. All those taboo, risque subjects that Hollywood was never allowed to explore are no longer restricted. It took a long time. The change wasn't overnight. There was always pushback. There would always be these coalitions of moms demanding better in media. Yet, the trend continued, and people continued to care less and less about the morality depicted in media. I know that this is going to come across as extremely hypocritical. It's probably confusing coming from me because I love offensive content. I love pushing boundaries. I love sex, drugs, and rock and roll in my entertainment. A lot of my favorite films would never have been made under the Hays Code. As an artist, I love it that we have the freedom to depict whatever we want in film. But getting rid of the Hays Code allowed something very nefarious to fester in the entertainment industry. Eventually, films, along with television, would be used to demoralize the population. Our concepts of family and community have been eroded by modern media. We've been separated from each other and ourselves. We've completely forgotten what's important in life. We've completely forgotten to appreciate the true beauty in life. Fast forward to the social media age, people are so obsessed with their screens now, so obsessed with celebrities, media, movies, and music. People are just so deeply entrenched in popular culture. We've replaced our love for each other, our love for our tribe, our community, our family, ourselves, with a love for celebrity, a love for glitz and glamour, a love for Hollywood, a love for a lie, a love for cheap thrills, and self-destruction. We allow ourselves to be transfixed with our screens and immersed with an artificial reality that does not serve us. It is a lie. It's a weapon that is used against us. Popular culture entertainment is not for us. It's against us. We're just scrolling all day, chasing that next dopamine high. And we're kept transfixed and addicted to social media through our love for ourselves as well. The social media generation is narcissistic and self-absorbed. I mean, think about it. We're uploading our selfies to the same platforms as Taylor Swift and Justin Bieber. It makes some people feel connected to their world, connected to the glamour of celebrity. And it opens people up to a whole new level of parasocial delusions and celebrity obsessions. The entire point of this propaganda that we consume, the entire point of engineering the entertainment industry this way, is to lift the individual up above the community, to separate us and divide us from each other, from our families and our tribes, to separate us from our support networks and to make us dependent on the system, to have us constantly chasing what's new, what's shiny, what's popular. They want us to look at celebrities as our icons. They want us to look up to celebrities as if they're our leaders. The individual has become more important than the family and the community. Our individual identities have become king over all else. Narcissism is the new belief system. Self-worship is the new religion. And celebrities are the new icons. Celebrities have become the gods, and it's absolutely terrifying. The information that we hear on the news is supposed to keep us informed. We use that information to decide how to vote. We make important decisions in our life based on things that we hear in the media. But how can you make informed decisions when all the information you're hearing is propaganda? How can you truly have democracy when all the information is lies? The idea of democracy and a free society under this paradigm is a joke. If all of the decisions we're making are based on lies and propaganda, how can we really have democracy and a free society if the public is always transfixed by lies and meaningless distractions? Today, it's becoming more and more impossible to discern truth from fiction online. The propaganda, the misinformation and disinformation through which we navigate every day pays a toll on us. Even if we think we're smart enough to tell the difference, even if we think we're smart enough to always know which is real and which is fake, it still affects us. No matter how diligent we are, no matter how intelligent we are, it will always have a hold on us. We have to unplug. I wanted to start the series off by reminding you guys about Operation Mockingbird because it's the best example that we have where the CIA was caught manipulating the public with disinformation. You have to remember that the media exists specifically to shape our perceptions and feed us this propaganda. Televisions were advertised to us as a family activity, so our families would consume their lies. I hope you liked this introduction. The rest of the series on the entertainment industry is going to be very shocking. I have to warn you. Everything we learn, everything we hear, everything we see, it's all manipulated. It's all lies. None of it's real. Everything's fucked. It's all fucked. The main takeaway I want to give at the end of this series is that our screens show us a false reality. We do not live in the reality that our screens show us. And the people that do live in that reality are only pretending. They're either being paid to do it or they're being forced to do it. Nothing on that screen is real. But that's not to say that life is not still beautiful, despite one glitzy, glamorous thing turning out to be an illusion. Life is full of beauty. Life is full of meaning. In fact, life is much more beautiful without the lie. No more lies.